She didn't expect anyone to notice her that night. An elderly black woman walking alone, carrying nothing but a small suitcase and the pieces of a life that had quietly fallen apart. But someone noticed, not with kindness, but with suspicion. Within minutes, a simple walk turned into something far darker, something that would expose the quiet cruelty she had endured for years. Yet what happened next wasn't just a moment of prejudice. It set off a chain of events that would lead her to a truth she never saw coming. And the question is, why was she really targeted that night? Before everything changed, Ella Lannar Simmons lived a quiet life built on routines that kept her steady. Every morning she brewed the same weak cup of tea, opened the curtains to the same tired street, and reminded herself that she was still here, still trying, still hoping. At 74, her days moved slowly, marked by small tasks and memories that clung to the walls of her home like shadows. She didn't bother anyone. She didn't expect much. She simply existed the way so many elderly black women do, unseen, overlooked, surviving on strength no one ever thanked her for. But outside her door, the world had shifted. Neighbors she once trusted had grown distant. The town she'd lived in for decades felt tighter, colder, filled with eyes that lingered a little too long and questions asked with suspicion instead of concern. At first, she brushed it off as age, as nerves, as loneliness. But deep down, she felt the change. The way people stepped aside, or didn't. The way clerks double-checked her receipts. The way strangers watched her like she didn't belong in the very place she'd built her life. Still, she tried to move forward one slow, careful step at a time. She had no idea that her quiet routines were about to crumble, that the life she thought she knew was hanging by a thread. And she had no way of knowing that one small moment, one look, one assumption would set everything else in motion. Because long before the danger revealed itself, the world had already decided who she was. Eleanor's escape should have brought peace, distance, quiet, a chance to breathe. But the farther she traveled, the clearer it became that running from heartbreak didn't protect her from the world outside. Especially a world that didn't look at her and see a woman in pain. Only a black woman alone. It started on the bus, just a few hours into her journey. When a wallet went missing from a passenger's bag, eyes scanned the aisle searching for someone to blame. They didn't hesitate. They landed on her. Not the young man who'd been wandering between seats. Not the teenager who'd been rummaging through her backpack. Her, a driver with tired eyes, approached her seat, voice clipped and suspicious. He didn't ask if she'd seen anything. He asked if she had it. As if the accusation had already been decided. As if her age, her frailty, her trembling hands meant nothing. She stammered a denial, her voice barely rising above the rumble of the engine, but no one cared. People whispered. Someone muttered, "Figures." The owner of the wallet found it minutes later under her own seat, exactly where she dropped it. No apology followed. No one met Eleanor's eyes. The suspicion stayed in the air like a stain that refused to lift. She thought that would be the worst of it. She was wrong. Hours later, after stepping off the bus in a small rural town, she walked along the roadside searching for a place to rest. The sky was dimming, the cold settling deeper into her bones. She noticed the pickup truck before she heard it, the way it slowed, lingering behind her, too close, too curious. She gripped the handle of her suitcase and kept walking, heart pounding harder with each step. The truck crept beside her, window rolling down just enough for a man's voice to slip out. "You lost?" 2 words. Sharp, loaded, not concern and assessment. She shook her head, kept moving. The truck stayed beside her anyway, matching her pace, the engine growling low like something waiting to pounce. A second voice spoke from inside, younger, mocking. "Bet she's not from around here." Laughter echoed behind the half-open window. Slow, mean, deliberate. A reminder that she had no place to go, no one to call, no ground to stand on that the world wouldn't question. When the truck finally sped off, dust swirling in its wake, Eleanor's knees nearly buckled with relief. But the moment she thought she was safe, her foot caught on an uneven patch of road and she stumbled hard. Her suitcase toppled, her hands scraped against gravel. Pain shot up her arm in a bright, hot wave, and that's when the real fear set in. She wasn't just alone, she was vulnerable. And the world around her was watching. Minutes later, Headlights approached again. She squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the worst. But the vehicle stopped. A door opened. Soft footsteps approached. A gentle voice, warm, steady, cut through the darkness. "Ma'am, are you all right?" She opened her eyes to see a mother and her 2 children standing over her. A family dressed in worn jackets, tired from their own long day, but offering something she hadn't felt in a long time: kindness. They helped her to her feet, lifted her suitcase, brushed the gravel from her palms. And as she looked at them, this poor family who owed her nothing, she felt something shift inside her. A spark of hope buried under months of pain. But she couldn't shake the dread crawling up her spine. Because kindness was one thing, safety was another. And the night was far from over. The family brought Eleanor into their small, dimly lit home. The walls thin and the floorboards worn, but it felt safer than the road, safer than the bus, safer than the world that seemed ready to swallow her whole. They gave her water, a blanket, a chair near the heater. For the first time in days, she felt her heartbeat slow until the knock came. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't friendly. It rattled the entire house. 2 deputies stood outside, hands resting just a little too comfortably on their belts. Their eyes skimmed past the family and landed on her, an elderly black woman wrapped in a borrowed blanket, breathing hard from fear she tried to hide. The younger deputy stepped forward first, jaw clenched, posture stiff with practiced authority. "We got a report," he said. "Suspicious individual walking near the county line. Matches her description." Suspicious. Her. Again. Before she could speak, the second deputy pushed inside without waiting for permission. His gaze landed on her suitcase. "Mind telling us what you're doing out here? This isn't exactly your neighborhood." She opened her mouth, but the words tangled in her throat. The mother tried to explain how they found her injured, how they were only helping, but the deputies weren't listening. Their eyes never left Eleanor, judging, assuming, deciding. "Stand up," one ordered. "We need to verify your identity." Her legs trembled as she rose. Her age didn't matter. Her pain didn't matter. Nothing about her mattered except the color of her skin and the story they'd already written in their heads. She could feel the children watching, wide-eyed, clinging to their mother's hands. She could feel herself shrinking under the weight of suspicion she hadn't earned, and for a moment she wondered, would they believe anything she said? Would they even let her speak? As the deputy stepped closer, hands inching toward her arms, Eleanor realized this was the moment everything hinged on: her safety, her freedom, maybe even her life. And what happened next would change all of them forever. The deputies questioned Eleanor for what felt like hours, their tone shifting only after the family stood beside her, refusing to let her face the moment alone. They spoke calmly, firmly, reminding the officers she was injured, frightened, and had done nothing wrong. Bit by bit, the pressure eased. The deputies backed down, and when they finally left, their suspicions still lingering in the air, Eleanor sank into the chair as if the weight of the entire world had been pressing on her chest. She was safe, but the scars of the moment would not fade easily. The family stayed with her long into the night, offering food, reassurance, a place to sleep. And for the first time in years, Eleanor felt something she hadn't felt even in her own home. Seen, valued, protected. Not because of what she owned, not because of what someone hoped to gain, but because they recognized her humanity. In the morning, she woke to the sound of laughter from the children and the smell of warm bread. It wasn't much. The house was small. The family had little. But what they gave her was something priceless: dignity, safety, love without conditions. And in that quiet kitchen, Eleanor realized something powerful sometimes. The people with the least to give the most. Her journey didn't end that night. It changed her. It opened her eyes to the truth she had ignored for too long. That racism isn't always loud. It's not always violent. Sometimes it's a look, a question, a judgment that follows people everywhere they go. A door that doesn't open, an accusation waiting in the shadows. Eleanor survived, but millions of others face the same silent battles every day. So the real question is this: how many more lives have to be doubted, dismissed, or endangered